Hello, welcome, g'day. I'm Shy. Welcome to the Cult of Order chapter for Dead by Daylight, my new fan-made chapter. Before we get into it, make sure you like and subscribe, and tell me if you want more videos like this in the comments. The Cult of Order includes a new killer, the Disciple, who destroys the will of survivors, conjuring their souls to eternal damnation through ritualistic practices. The Disciple uses his 3 teachable perks, Sound of Silence, Bloodbath, and Will of the Weak, to lure weakened victims, inflict more suffering upon them, and approach them suddenly. A new survivor, Samuel Marks, who is used to how the world works with insane skills in survival. His 3 teachable perks, Brush with Death, Tamer of the Wild, and Perilous, help him to avoid death, locate the killer, and increase the usability of his surroundings. And a new map, the Lost Island Cult Den. The Cult Den is a dark underground den with black bricks and a black twisted design. The walls are collapsing and infested with roots and bugs. Above the den is a small expanse of the Lost Island's twisted forest with ritualistic sights and skulls. The main building is the center of the den with a massive cultist ritualistic floor. The walls are either black bricks or solid concrete where no one can hear you scream. Timothy Bilal was brought up in a loving Christian family. But as he aged, his belief changed. After reading the Holy Bible, he came to a personal conclusion in which God was not the holy being people make him out to be. He listened to the words and saw what God had done to the world. In his eyes, God was a murderer. As he moved into high school, he met with a group of people who agreed with him. In history class, Tim studied Belkavar, the goat-headed devil god, which wanted to take over God's place in a rebellion, something which Satan had failed. Tim started to believe that Belkavar would become stronger if more faith was in him, so he decided to create a cult. The cult was known as the Cult of Order, and he gathered his closest friends to join him in his beliefs. Over the years, they all committed horrible acts towards strangers and loved ones. One day, during a ritual which would sacrifice a poor homeless man, a fog set over the altar. Once it passed, Tim was gone. The Disciple's power is called the Ceremony. Conjure. Each survivor begins the match with 100 essence and is represented by the amount of their player portrait covered in a red mist. Hold the power button to perform Conjure, slowing you down immensely. All survivors within a 5-meter radius of you will begin to be pulled towards you. If they do not fight the pull, they will be pulled directly towards you. If they fight it, they will be pulled slower. Whilst being pulled, all survivors' actions are cancelled and survivors cannot perform actions. Survivors being pulled will have their essence drained at 10 essence every second. Conjure will last 5 seconds and can be cancelled at any time. Essence levels. At 100% essence, a survivor is considered completely healthy. At 75%, a survivor will perform actions such as healing, sabotaging, repairing, searching, unhooking, and any killer unique action 25% slower. At 50%, they will perform those actions 50% slower. At 25%, a survivor's movement speed will be decreased by 5%. At 0%, a survivor will be damaged a health state, or 2 if they are exposed, and will gain back 100% essence. Ceremony. Once the Disciple has a total of 225 essence, press the active ability button to begin the ceremony for 20 seconds. During this time, your vision will darken and Conjure will be constantly active, with its range increased to 10 meters. All generators, vaults, pallets, and lockers will be blocked. This will essentially make it so whilst conjuring with the orb weapon in your hand, survivors will be pulled. You can stop pulling and almost instantly M1 afterwards. This will probably generate some unusual mind game ideas. You can start a pull behind a wall, but you will not be able to M1 the survivor due to them being on the other side. This could create a new strategy, where a survivor must try not to get within a 5 meter circle of the killer whilst looping. This killer would definitely at least be an A tier, however definitely counterable. Some add-on ideas could be, at lower essence levels, survivor gain a certain debuff status effect. Another idea is that the gravitational pull breaks breakable walls and pallets if you go past them. Remember that whilst using the conjure you can barely move, so you would have to be close to them. Another possible idea is an add-on that opens lockers whilst conjuring, revealing survivors inside of the lockers. These are just a few ideas. Also, it is noteworthy that conjuring won't cancel actions such as saving, pallet drops, or window vaulting, although you won't be able to begin these actions once the conjure is pulling you. The conjure will however cancel generator repairs, healing, searching chests, and getting into lockers. To balance it out, I believe it should not cancel totem cleansing, I just think that would be fair. Also, I don't think the conjure would start pulling you straight away, maybe just half a second after you start the conjure, plus you will have to prepare the conjure, which will take, I don't know, maybe 1 or 2 seconds. The 3 teachable perks for the Disciple are Scourge Hook, Sound of Silence, Hex, Bloodbath, and Will of the Weak. Scourge Hook, Sound of Silence. You hush the ones who don't believe in your ways. At the start of a trial, 4 random hooks are changed into Scourge Hooks. The auras of Scourge Hooks are revealed to you in white. When a survivor is unhooked from a Scourge Hook, they will gain a 3, 6, or 9% hindered penalty for 10, 15, or 20 seconds, depending on the rarity of the perk. This would somewhat promote tunneling, however, it might create some smart plays if you're running out of options. Hex Bloodbath. You feed off the blood of others. A double totem becomes a Hex totem. Every time a survivor's health state decreases, gain a token, up to 5, 10, or 15 tokens. For every token in your possession, gain a 1% haste effect permanently until the Hex totem is cleansed. This would be really useful as you would permanently be faster until the totem is cleansed, and 15% is insane. However, you don't get it for free, you will have to work for it and injure survivors. Remember, you don't have to injure them directly. Will of the Weak. You degrade the wills of others, luring them into your circle. When a Hex totem is cleansed, gain the undetectable status effect for 15 seconds, and gain a 3, 5, or 7% haste effect, dependent on the tier. If you are stunned within the next 20 seconds of Will of the Weak activating, the survivor who stuns you is inflicted with 5% hindered status effect for 20 seconds. Although it only lasts 15 seconds, being undetectable and super fast would be pretty useful. You could combine this perk with something like Retribution and Undying, then when they go to cleanse totems, you see the survivors and are super fast. Sam was a member of the government of the Soviet Union throughout World War II. He had followed Stalin and believed in everything that he was doing. After the Battle of Stalingrad, Marx considered it as his victory due to him feeding ideas through the generals. When it was frowned upon by the government, Marx was arrested and thrown into captivity, mainly due to him not praising Stalin for his victory. He stayed captive for over a year before eventually escaping the compound. Once he escaped, he had to survive in the frozen wasteland of Siberia for months, and tamed various creatures. On multiple occasions, he had brushes with death. One night, he discovered an abandoned town, and inside, books containing knowledge about the entity. He stayed up all night reading. Once finished, before he could leave, a thick cloud of fog surrounded him. The 3 teachable perks for Samuel Marks are Brush with Death, Boon, Tamer of the Wild, and Perilous. Brush with Death. Your previous brushes with death help you to avoid new ones. When being unhooked, gain 5% haste for 3 seconds. When being unhooked during your second hook stage, gain the endurance status effect for 5, 8, or 10 seconds, and gain a 15% haste for 5 seconds, dependent on the tier. When being carried and on your final hook stage, you wiggle 10, 15, or 20% faster. This perk could be really useful in multiple situations. It somewhat counters tunneling and camping, as well as lets you wiggle way faster when you're close to death. With a great team, this perk could be super useful. Imagine you being face camped near a gate in endgame collapse and then being saved. The killer goes to tunnel you, and you gain endurance as well as haste. You could quickly run to the exit gate and even take a hit with no risk. Boon, Tamer of the Wild. A boon that tames the wild animals. Press and hold the active ability button on a dull totem to bless it into a boon totem. Soft chimes will ring out within a 28 meter radius. When a killer disturbs a crow within the radius of the boon totem, the killer's aura is revealed to all survivors for 1, 2, or 3 seconds dependent on the tier. This perk could serve as a pretty decent information perk, especially due to how often killers set off crows. It might work well with Shadow Step too. Perilous. The journey is perilous, but rewards await. When being healed or injured, Perilous becomes active for 20, 25, or 30 seconds with a 60, 50, or 40 second cooldown dependent on the tier. All vault locations cannot be blocked for you either by cause of you or the killer, for example with Bamboozle. If the killer vaults a window during this time, they are inflicted with a 5% hindered status effect for 1 second. This perk could be extremely useful, especially if you want to reuse powerful loops like Shack. 30 seconds of nothing being blocked off. It is noteworthy that the cooldown starts after the perk effect. This means at tier 1 it would take 80 seconds to recharge, at tier 2 75, and at tier 3 70. Anyway, that concludes my custom DBD chapter. Please leave comments if you have any suggestions or changes, or if you have your own custom killer you would like to share, or just perks, that would be really cool. Please like and subscribe, of course, and I'll see you later.